Your phone keeps buzzing.
Stop it.
Oh, man.
You people need... Okay.
Oh, that was a great start.
It was a great start.
Welcome to Poutine Politics. My name's Adam.
My name's Mike.
And today, Mike is going to give us a little bit of fun. At least as I understand fun.
Well, we're going to talk about... Some people might think it's a contentious issue. I'm not so sure, but it is the land disputes that are plaguing our country and the reason why we should increase our military. Well, maybe not increase our military, but definitely the land disputes in Canada.
Okay. Are we also... We're not... Okay. I'll let you get to it before I ask any questions.
Okay. So, and I should say not land disputes. Land disputes would be a misnomer. I'm talking about border disputes.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. It's more specifically because there's not really that many land disputes.
Well, there might be. Because I was going to ask, are you talking about like indigenous land disputes?
No, we're not talking about within Canada's borders. I'm talking about with other countries.
Okay.
And we are not going to talk about the Arctic because that is just a wealth of fun that I just don't want to get involved with.
Apparently China is eyeing the Arctic now.
Why not? They'll just build an island there. Like
That's
they're
right.
doing it everywhere else. So why not build one there too?
They're building a series of islands until eventually Taiwan is a part of the mainland. So
Right.
really, why don't... I mean, or the bridge that they built from Macau over, or are building from Macau over to Hong Kong.
Yeah, exactly.
That whole... Anyways, whatever.
Yeah.
We're not talking about that.
Yeah, right. So there are quite a few land disputes, even though for the most part only have one land neighbor.
Well, yes. Yeah.
We only have one land neighbor.
Yeah.
It's the U.S. Yay for U.S. So how many countries do you think we have border disputes with?
4.
It's 3.
Okay.
Because we only have 3 countries that are around us.
Well, I was going to say, obviously, there's the U.S.
Yep.
I know the one with Denmark.
Yep.
And France?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So the French one is the first one to cover.
St-Pierre et Miquelon.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad you said it because I don't remember how to say the Miquelon.
I remember, I think I remember learning about that back in like grade, I don't know, 4, 5, something like that.
Yeah.
Very, very briefly. Just being told, oh yeah, there's a piece of France just off the coast of Newfoundland.
Yeah, there's 2 little islands that are off the coast of Newfoundland. And the best part about them is that for the longest time, they were French and that was no problems. But France was like, hey, listen, we need access to them. So we need a part like away from the Atlantic to get into it from international waters to their own sovereign waters.
Mm-hmm. So
eventually in the 80s, they were like, okay, we'll settle this. So they made this little tiny keyhole, or they've called it. And it's just this long stretch that went out like 200 nautical miles.
200 nautical miles.
Something like that.
Ooh,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, it's just your economic exclusion zone.
Oh, yes, okay. Kind
Okay.
of like the Grand Banks and fishing and stuff. Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
right. Which was fine until they increased the EEZ to 300 and haven't resettled it again. So once again, France can't get to its little tiny islands in Canada from international waters without going through Canada. Perfect. 10 out of 10. Let's do it again.
So when a ship is going towards St-Pierre et Miquelon, it has to go through customs?
I guess. I don't know. I don't really...
Is the Coast Guard constantly out there to watch for ships?
Listen, it doesn't make any sense to me either, but it's kind of neat that like, yay, we settled. Oh, snap. And they didn't, like, the weird part is they just could have extended it. Like, it's just a strip.
Yeah.
That's just perfectly like, like 10 kilometers across or something like that. It's just enough so that way they can get to and from their island. They settled it.
But I guess if it was... Yeah, see, and I haven't looked at a map where it is, obviously, in a while, because I'm trying to think.
It goes straight south from it.
If it was longer, would it cut off?
No.
No, okay, so it just...
It just goes straight south. So if they made it longer and made it straight out to the ocean, international waters, which they should do, it wouldn't impact anything.
Okay.
Right.
Well,
like, there's no problems there. Like the fact that it's not done is just
stupid.
Diplomatic nightmares, right?
Well,
and then
it's probably a minor issue for both countries, and that's why they're not.
we'll get into that.
Oh, okay.
About how a lot of these border disputes outside of even Canada are usually just a matter of, yeah, we don't really want to do this. Let's just ignore it. We'll skip over. It's fine. It's perfectly okay. So, do you know how many different border disputes Canada and the U.S. have? There's 5 major ones.
5 major ones,
Yes.
which means there's more than 5.
Well, yeah, there's always more.
Okay.
Like there's little tiny ones, like that one city that is on both sides of the border.
Yeah, there's a town where it's like the border literally goes down the middle of a street.
Yeah, and into the library.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, yes, that's
So you
right.
can go-
And you have to, if you want to go see your neighbor across the street, you have to go to the border post first.
Yeah.
Whereas before 9/11, you just went across the street.
Yeah,
Nobody cared.
Nobody cared. Yeah, it's just the most bizarre thing in the world. But ignore that one. Out west, because these are the ones that are less contentious, we'll say. There's, of course, the Northwest Passage.
Yes.
Which is just, Americans are like, hey, no, listen, it's international waters. And Kenya's like, we have to patrol that. No.
It definitely is not international waters because of the proximity to all of the islands up there that are a part of Canada.
Yeah. You know, and everyone's like, everyone that doesn't have islands up there is like, no, it's all international waters. And everyone that does is like, no, it's ours.
Yeah.
Go away.
Yeah, even Greenland, so Denmark, wouldn't exactly want just anybody using the Northwest Passage without paying or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem. Then there's the Dixon entrance, which is like, in between Alaska and BC is just a small chunk where they're not sure where the border lies.
Okay. Because
Right,
it's
it's
like,
like-
because it's out in the middle of wilderness.
It's like they have lines that are one's A, one's B, and they're like, well, which one is it?
Right.
The Strait of Juan de Fuca, again. But
Yeah.
there's almost a war over that. The pig war that didn't amount to anything.
That's the Juan de Fuca Strait is
Washington and
yeah, that's right. It's down around Vancouver Island.
Yeah.
And that's because if I remember that one has to do with the whole situation about the 49th parallel, right?
Yeah.
Which is why what is it, Point Edward? No, there's that little there's a very little patch of land that's it's not in Vancouver, but it's like close to Vancouver that because of the whole 49th parallel situation,
Yeah.
it's a little town or village or whatever that's in the U.S., but for the kids to go to school, because they have to go to the school in Washington State, and I guess technically it's part of Washington State, but they have to drive through Canada to get to school on the bus every single day, and it's like a 40-minute bus ride each way.
yeah. Public school they can go in, and it's the high school they can't, so they have to cross the border.
Yes, that's right.
They
Yeah.
have to go through the border 4 times a day.
Yeah.
It's great. It's just great. Yeah, that's all around in that area, and that's just because, it's just where the lines are drawn. But it's not really a contentious issue, so to speak.
Mhm.
Well, let's be real here. None of these are contentious.
No, not really.
We
Not
can
really.
pretend they are. The Beaufort Sea, that's in the Yukon, Alaska. That's basically where Yukon and Alaska meet. Where are they drawing the line from
Yes.
there?
Yeah. Okay.
Some people, Canada's like, we should draw it straight north, and Alaska's like, well, we should continue the border because Alaska wants more, and Canada wants more, right? Like,
course.
that's just the nature of the beast. But the one that's the most fun between Canada and the U.S. is the one that just brings me all kinds of joy, which is, I'm going to pronounce it wrong, the Machias Seal Island, I think it's called, off the coast of Maine. It's closer to Maine than it is New Brunswick.
Yes. Okay. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And basically, there's puffins there.
Yep.
That's pretty much it. So, and because it encompasses a 300 square kilometer, roughly, zone, it's called the gray zone around that area
Mhm.
between them. And it's the last land dispute that Canada and the U.S. still have, which is amazing. And it's really over fights over lobsters. Like, that's really what the battle is. There's some other battles which are amazing, but that's the
It's
main.
not over the puffins.
Not over the puffin. No.
Okay. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about the puffins.
It's not that nobody cares. This is what happens. You're really not supposed to go there to look at the to interact with the puffins.
Yeah.
'cause it's a
Yeah.
sanctuary.
Habitat.
But if you really want to bribe somebody to get onto a boat to go see the puffins, guess what?
You can do that.
That happens.
No problem.
And it's the only, like, where else are we going to see puffins around here?
Yeah.
Like, there's no place to see puffins like that.
There's another one. Maybe they've resolved it. Probably not. And again, this wasn't necessarily a land dispute, but it was kind of like a border issue, especially again because of 9/11, where it's like a golf course in New Brunswick. Okay, but the road that you have to take to get to the golf course goes into Maine. The only road that would go to the golf course. So before 9/11. Whatever, you crossed the border, you went to the golf course, nobody was there, nobody cared. But I think they had to change the road because of the fact that after 9/11, oh, well, now the border security's up. Well, you need your passport. You need all this identification. What are you doing? Where are you going? It's like the road only goes to the golf course. I'm going to play golf. And technically, you'd cross 4 times, because you'd cross into Maine, then back into New Brunswick to get to the golf course, then back into Maine when you're leaving, and then back into New Brunswick when you're, on your way home.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some interesting things like that, especially in New Brunswick. They've got all kinds of exceptions. And it all stems, and this is the history part, from our little war that we had with the U.S., which, for the record, we won.
Yes. For argument's sake, it was the British. But yes, you're right.
We were in country yet. And then they said, okay, so we're going to resolve it because it was over land near Quebec and Ontario. And they resolved it, and they said, okay, so everything off of the U.S. coast up to a certain point was considered American, but anything that was near to New Brunswick was considered Canadian.
Mm-hmm.
It literally said near.
Yeah.
Well, what's near?
Right. That's not exactly a unit of measurement.
Right. So Canada built a lighthouse on it in 1832.
Oh.
And was like, hey, listen, we've got a lighthouse. And it was a lighthouse. I mean, lighthouses are good things. And the Americans are like, okay, well, you built a lighthouse. So things go along fine. And then there was a man named Barnabas Norton. Okay. And the reason why this guy's important is because he said that that's my island and I'm sticking to it. And he got in fights with Canada about this, like Canadian legals. And he said that in his will, anybody named Barnabas can have a legal claim to this island. So there was a gentleman, for years in the 70s and 80s, would take people out on the 4th of July and plant a flag on the island because his name was Barnabas and had claims over the island.
It's funny that the claim is having the same first name, not the same last name.
Well, you're still Norton, but I mean, yeah, the claim was that as long as he was named Barnabas.
Okay.
And his name was Barnabas.
Right.
He didn't go by Barnabas. I think he went by Barney. And he went out and he always planted a flag every 4th of July. Like, this is my land. This is American soil.
Oh, jeez.
Okay. And the problem is that right now as it stands, both have a legal argument because they can say, well, Canada has a lighthouse there.
Right.
And Americans are like, well, a lighthouse isn't a residency. So whose island is it? So basically the Canadians are like, no, we built our lighthouse on your rock. Too bad. And the Americans are like, you don't have a lighthouse there. That doesn't count.
The lighthouse doesn't exist.
Right? The lighthouse isn't there. It's not. I
don't know what you're talking about.
But here's the best part. Okay, so like 1995, all of Canadians' lighthouses went fully automated.
Yeah.
Including that one.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we still have residents living on that island.
In a house separate from the lighthouse?
Yes.
Okay.
To look after the lighthouse.
Right.
That doesn't need to be looked after.
Because the Americans say it doesn't exist.
Well, they're there.
But also that it's automated, yes.
They're there for sovereign purposes.
Yes, exactly.
That's what it's not even through the Coast Guard. It's through Canada's Global Affairs Minister office. That's how they get paid. Why do I not have this job? I get, what was my job? My job is to be there. And apparently the people that are there, they go on a rotation, like so they're on there 6 weeks off, 6 weeks on. They don't really enforce anything. It's not like they do any border checks. It's not like they're like, show me your passport.
Yeah, they should. I was going to say, maybe they should be being paid through CBSA. And whenever someone shows up on the island, hey, border crossing, show me your papers.
It's one of those things that hopefully, I mean, there's puffins there, so people go see puffins. There's some lobster disputes, which can get violent. For the most part, though, it's a nothing because no one really, like, why make this a melting pot of an issue if it's not that prevalent?
Yep.
As long as someone finds oil.
Well, of course. Someone tells me they're not going to find oil under that lighthouse.
Well, yeah, hopefully.
Somebody, although, yeah, exactly. You never know.
Right.
They could just build an oil derrick anyways. Oh, we think there's some oil down there. We're going for it.
Yeah.
Resource rights.
Well, Trump said that it was any American company can use their EEZ to, any company can go in and start drilling wherever they want to. They can give any contract out. Just don't do it.
Okay, hold on. EEZ, that's Economic Exclusion Zone?
Yeah, Economic Exclusion Zone.
Okay, yeah. All right.
So we're basically, you can only fish there if you're from that.
Right, okay, yeah.
And they overlap and stuff like that. So that's basically it. I mean, it's a fight over puffins.
And a lighthouse that may or may not exist.
That lighthouse that may or may not exist. That you can see on Google Maps. Right? Yeah. I like
So we have Google on our side. That's good.
Yeah, it's Google. We'll get back to Google again. Which makes me laugh that Google comes up again. It's great. Anyway, so that's pretty much it. But the last dispute and the best dispute is about Hans Island.
Okay.
Now, most people, when I say Hans Island, either know what the heck I'm talking about or have no idea what I'm talking about.
It's pretty much, yeah. It's a black and white, like you've heard of it before or you haven't.
Yeah,
it's just
either
there's no like, oh, that sounds familiar.
That sounds familiar. No. Either you know what it's about. And it's because there is an island in between Greenland and Baffin Island called Hans Island in the Kennedy Strait, and it's disputed. So in the 1920s, I love this. There was a Danish celebration expedition that claimed it was theirs.
Okay.
And in 1933, it was given status by an organization that became defunct that year, saying that it was theirs.
Like here's yours formed just so that they could say that, and then they're like, no, that's it, we're done.
Yeah, like it has no merit whatsoever. Okay, now it's still a little bit more claim than Canada really has an island, but really, like, it is literally in between the borders. So when they redrew the lines, well, they drew the lines, I should say, not redrew. Then when they drew the lines, they literally went, oh, look, it's halvesies.
Yeah, it's like right in the middle, right?
Yeah, it's literally right in the middle. Like, it's in between both. Like, there's no real claim one way or another about it.
And we are basically talking about a rock. Like, it's not that big.
It's nothing important.
It's like it's less than a square kilometer, isn't it?
Yeah, it's tiny. Yeah, I think it's half a square kilometer or something like that. Like, it's just the smallest thing in the world. But yeah,
no lighthouse either.
No lighthouse in this case. So there's no claim there. But what I like is that they actually, in 1973, they created one of the first shelf boundaries, like as far as like where are the boundaries and things like that, and they just skipped it.
What?
They didn't say who it was. They're like, we got all these other islands because there's other islands in the strait.
Right? Yeah.
But they skipped that one. They're like, yep, we're just gonna not. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's fine. It's good. It's perfect. It's fantastic.
Oh, okay. I see. Because they were mapping them to like the ocean floor kind of thing. Is that what you mean? Yeah. Okay. All right.
The kind of shelf, like where the border should be based on the shelf. Right. But they just skipped over the island because it was right in the middle.
Gotcha.
Right. So perfect. How do you deal with something? Just ignore it. It's fine.
It's a floating rock.
It's perfect. It's fantastic. So then it started to have the greatest land dispute in the history of the world, I think. They first, in the 80s, the minister of Denmark planted a flag and said, "Welcome to Denmark," and also put, as a part of Denmark's territorial conquest, they would always put bottles of schnapps on there. Well, then Canada came by and was like, oh, we can do this. So they planted a flag saying, "Welcome to Canada," and put Canadian Club whiskey down. And this goes on and on. Like, every time one of the countries visits, that's what they do. They put their flag down saying, "This is my territory." Yeah. As if that means anything. Well, I mean,
it worked back in imperialist days. So,
well, Russia clearly has the North Pole then.
Yeah, I know exactly. The submarine down to the North Pole and plant the flag under the water to see it's ours. Totally, 100%.
Right.
Just admit it.
Just don't worry about it. So that's what they would do. But it's become contentious sometimes. So sorry. It's hard to do this with a serious face. Canada conducted an exercise with 600 troops south of the island and then claimed, no, it wasn't about invading that island. Nothing to do with that at all. Sure it wasn't.
Okay, what year did that happen in?
2000s.
Oh, okay. You don't have a specific year, I guess, though.
No, because it was Black Ops, we'll call it.
Oh.
Super covert Canadian operations. So it was alleged. Sorry.
Oh, okay. So it didn't actually happen.
Sure.
Just like the lighthouse.
Just like the lighthouse. Doesn't exist. Same thing. But we really upset Denmark when in 2005 we sent an ambassador and the Canadian defense minister there.
To the island.
Okay. Ooh, they weren't happy about that. So what does Denmark do? Denmark complains to the press about it and says, those bad Canadians didn't ask us permission to go. That's what you do. You don't leverage your ambassador. Apparently they did. Apparently they brought the ambassador in and was like, question him, but everyone denied it. They're like, no, Denmark didn't do it, and the ambassador's like, no, nobody did, and Canada's like, no, nobody did. So maybe they did, but the Denmark was like, stop that. You can't do that, Canada. That's bad, Canada. In 2005, an Ottawa citizen noticed that Google ran an ad. This is where the Google comes back in.
Oh, okay.
Google ran an ad saying that Hans Island was, in fact, part of Denmark, and he
ran an ad.
Well, he didn't run the ad. He found
no,
an ad.
Yeah.
But Google ran an ad saying that it wasn't disputed territory, that
Okay.
Hans Island was a part of Denmark.
Okay.
And then he brought it to the concern, and then that sent off a whole bunch of fireworks. Well, as much fireworks as this island gets. Like, let's be real here. So
we put 2 bottles of Canadian Club whiskey on the island.
like, what are we doing? Like, the part that they just constantly like they don't get upset. They just take down the flag and put up their other flag. Like, I seriously want to be there the one time that they both meet and they just wait for the other person to leave. Like, that's gonna happen.
Okay, they're not watching.
Let's go put up our flag. Right? Hop back in our boats and go back home. But like,
oh man.
Well, the only problem is about the environmental impact around the area, right? Because that's
right.
Really, and both countries have agreed that they're going to look out for this little island regardless of the scenario. So the proposals are twofold. They're either to have the island split, which is the most reasonable solution. However, it causes a problem because now we have a land border that we didn't have before.
That has to be manned.
That has to be manned now. And Denmark also has a land border because they're also a nation that only has one border with Germany.
Right.
Land border, that is.
Yeah, because the border with Norway?
Yeah, it's not land.
Yeah, is not land. Yeah, that's right.
So, or they do the condominium thing where they split the land every 6 months, like they do in France.
What?
There's an island in France that France and Belgium, I think, they flip it every 6 months.
Oh, okay.
Which is basically the same thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Right,
All
like
okay.
here's your 6 months turn now.
So do the people? I mean, I'm assuming it's an island that nobody lives on, but it's like if the people lived on it, are they dual citizens?
No, both of them. You can't live on it.
Yeah,
that's part of the rules.
Oh, okay.
Right, like there's that island.
Damn.
There's the island in New York that you can't even touch. And New York Harbor. I can't remember what it's called, but somebody built like this thing there and it fell down, and you're not even supposed to go on it. You get charged.
Oh.
And funny was there was a reporter that went out there and boated up there, and he flipped his boat, but then had to stand up to get back into it. So was he on the island?
Oh man.
Yeah, it was a good times. Yeah, I love like every part of this. Just it makes me like, is there anything more Canadian than having land disputes that aren't really land disputes of any kind?
Okay, hold on. There's one more that I was thinking about when you got to the end of the U.S. I'm gonna just quickly look it up. I think it's Lake of the Woods, but it's a border dispute between Canada and the U.S. and it's a lake.
When they were drawing the map for Canada and the U.S., they're like, what we're going to do is we can't really see where this is because it's covered by an insert.
Yes.
So we're just going to go the northwest corner of this lake is where it's going to start. And then we're going to drop down the 49th parallel and go straight until it reaches the Mississippi.
And they thought that the lake was smaller than it actually ended up being.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
But it's not really a dispute because it is done correctly. There's just this one little island, not island, one little completely closed off
It's
area.
like an inlet.
Yeah.
There's like an inlet that's technically part of Minnesota. But again, the only way that you can access it is the only way that people from Minnesota or people from the States can access it without crossing the border is by boat.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
and I think there are cottages there.
Yeah, because like back in the day when no one cared about the border.
Right. Exactly. Because that was back after the War of 1812.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, when they started, and then they said we wanted to go 49th parallel over to the Mississippi, which didn't happen because the Mississippi isn't there.
No, it doesn't go. Yes, that's right, and that's where the whole thing that's where the dispute at the time about the lake came up, because the Mississippi didn't go all the way up to the 49th parallel, and it was kind of we said it was going to go to the northwest corner of that lake, and it should be 49th and whatever. Yeah. Anyways. Yeah, you're right. It's not a dispute anymore, but it's still just kind of one of those interesting things.
It just looks weird. Like if you ever look at a Canada-U.S. map and you're like, 49th, it's pretty straight. Why is that going up there? Mm-hmm. That's why. That's the exact reason why. Because if somebody was smart, they would have been like, no, just go 49th and just meet up.
Yeah.
And
Well,
you're fine, but whatever.
Well, and again, kind of like the Wanda Fuca Strait thing. It's like, they could have just included that little patch of land as a part of how they drew that border when they were figuring that Vancouver Island was going to be entirely a part of Canada. But no, we're going to leave that little, because it's on the mainland and the 49th parallel runs across it. That little piece of land, that's still part of the United States. And kids get to pass through the border 4 times a day.
Yes. It's just, yeah. Border regulators are they're fun. And because we're in a country where we don't have the borders and the border issues that other countries do, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's face it, Canada and the U.S. are best friends. Like, let's be real here.
Yes. It's not like Russia moving fences, a few feet every couple of weeks to say, oh, yeah, this is part of Russia. It always was.
It always was.
The Ukraine slowly gets smaller, and Georgia slowly gets smaller. Little bits of... We don't have that kind of thing.
We don't have too many Barnabases.
Yes, exactly. Oh man. Well, at least, like you said, at least our border disputes are fun.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think that's the end of our episode on border disputes. My name's Adam.
My name's Mike.